Hi, everybody. This is Aaron Mesh with Willamette Week. I'm delighted to be here today with Nikki Simmons. She's the events coordinator for the Oregon Zoo. And it's been an interesting 48 hours for the zoo because an event that is one of the traditions in Portland, ZooLights, turned out to be something that was under the restrictions created by the governor for the 4-week freeze, which happens to fall right in the middle of when typically Oregonians would stroll through zoo grounds looking at neon hippos and giraffes and things of that nature. So, Nikki, how do you turn an event that is a holiday light display from a walking event into a driving event?
So this started back in July when we started thinking about ZooLights, and it's really important to the zoo's financial viability. So it was important for us to find a way to do it, understanding that what we're dealing with right now could have happened. So we spent a lot of time, talked to a lot of people at the zoo, and we had created a 2-part model that was part walking on certain days and driving on other days. Sorry, that's my dog if he starts barking. So it was a lot of logistics to work through. The zoo, you've been there, not all of the paths are really wide. Some of them are boardwalks. So we really started exploring taking this light show behind the scenes and on a lot of our service roads where we do have the width for a vehicle to go through. So that was kind of where it started, but it was multiple maps, multiple versions, a lot of stakeholder feedback everywhere from the ops team, which I'm part of, all the way to the animal care team on what's the best path for vehicle safety, safety of our employees, animal welfare. So there was a lot to things to work through to get to the path that we have now created.
So the animal welfare question is the one that, of course, comes to mind. Are there concerns that like the elephants will be troubled by having this many cars around?
No, it was actually an elephant keeper who brought up the idea. We had been thinking about it a little bit, kind of, idea cloud style. And we got an email one day from the elephant team, and it was a keeper that was like, why don't we do this, as a drive-through model? And that really helped give us some confidence in evaluating this. And around that same time, we started seeing zoos around the country implementing almost like drive-through safaris, which we would never be able to do. Again, the path that you'll go through on ZooLights, you really don't even see exhibits because of so much of it is behind the scenes. But the animal care team spent a lot of time talking to those other zoos and their experiences on impacts to animals, and they don't have any concerns, which is great to hear. And animals, just like any time we have an event at the zoo, they have access indoors. But really, this path doesn't impact exhibits much. So,
what is the path? Does it go kind of around the outside of the zoo, like toward Washington Park, or is it like the service roads? What are you looking at?
So it's inside the zoo ground. So you'll enter in. There's an access gate near the train station. So that's where you'll go in. You'll cut through the zoo to the train tracks. You'll cross over, and then you'll spend a bulk of the ride on service roads. You'll come up along our concert lawn, down Zoo Street, which has just reopened, but we have our bond project going on there. And then you'll loop back down onto another service road and then out another service gate.
So I know that people who put on light displays across the state, from the coast, there's one near Florence that's been canceled, all the way to Peacock Lane here in Portland, have been calling off light events. Was there any concern at the zoo that you just have to cancel this thing altogether?
We were always pretty confident in the drive piece, and we kept that part of our model from the beginning. So until this freeze happened, we were going to do 5 days a week of walking, 2 days a week of driving. And we decided on that just because there are people who haven't been comfortable coming to the zoo since we reopened. So we felt like this gave people another option to enjoy the light show. When the freeze came and she specifically called out zoos closing, that was concerning to us. And so we reached out about our drive-through model. And then today we received the okay and guidance. So it's great news for us. It's great news for PIR and the Sunshine Division and their show, and any other light shows that do a drive-through model.
I'm fascinated by the question of how closely the governor is looking at things. How detailed was the guidance you received?
It's pretty detailed. It's not as detailed as the guidance we got when we were reopening as a zoo, just because it's cars, and most of the concern is around like staff interacting with the guests, and then making sure that people don't get out of their vehicles. So the guidance is a lot around that. It also encompasses like drive-in movies. So it talks about vehicles being 6 feet apart if they're parked. And then a lot of it is just links to proper face covering, documentation. Food service is mentioned in there, and it really has to be a takeout model and delivered to the car, which we have a small food piece with the drive-in model, and we had already planned to do that.
There's a values shift here a little bit that I'm sure is felt at Metro, because this is an agency that traditionally has been involved in the effort to get people to, go to the zoo by max. Like, let's get you out of your car. Let's not be a city that pollutes the air with more carbon emissions. And now you find yourself in this crisis where you got to think a little bit, old-fashioned, I guess.
Yeah, we do. We still, like I said earlier, this program is really important to the financial viability of the zoo. Us, just like any other cultural institution, have been, hit with this pandemic, and we need to make sure that we have the resources we need to stay alive.
How much money does it typically bring in?
Oh gosh, I should know this offhand, and I don't. It's the program itself is a few $1 million each year on a normal year. But you're talking about nights where we would have 10, 12, 14,000 people come into the zoo in a 5-hour period. This is very different. The drive model, we've never done it, so we don't know exactly how many cars we can get through. We have some modeling, and so we're starting out really conservative to make sure that it's a good guest experience, and we work out all of our bugs, and then we'll build on that, as opposed to the walk model where we've been doing it for 30 years. We know how people move through the zoo. We know where they stop. But even our walk model was impacted with the restrictions. And so the way it was planned, and if we get to execute it after the freeze, it's a max of about 2,200 people a night, which in previous years we would look at as a really slow ZooLights night. So
how many cars do you estimate you'll be able to get through the drive-through version in one evening?
Right now we're starting with 40 cars every 20 minutes, so about 120 cars an hour, and it's about 4 hours that we're executing. So 550, 600 is where we're starting, and then we hope to build from there.
What's the speed limit?
3 miles an hour. So we'll have a pilot car that starts to help pace, those first few cars that come through. Once people get in, and you have the people that do stop for a second to look at something, and people who may be going slower, then we know it'll sort of pace itself from there. But we will start with a pilot car every night.
It's like the opposite of a race.
I know. Exactly.
Well, Nikki, thank you so much for taking this time with me. I really appreciate it, and good luck with this holiday season event.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.